This is the moment that one woman and a crew of civilians confronted the Israeli Navy.
Israeli Navy, this is a civilian vessel. Any blockade that deliberately starves a civilian population is a violation of international law. Therefore, we demand that you stand down.
They're headed for Gaza, one of the most tightly controlled coastlines on Earth. For nearly 2 decades, ordinary people have sailed small boats straight into a military siege, backed by a superpower.
Israel will not allow the breach of a lawful naval blockade. Any further refusal will put the responsibility on the flotilla organizers.
Israel's blockade by land, air, and sea has cut off 2 million Palestinians from food, medicine, and the outside world. And most flotillas trying to break it were met with force. In 2010, the response was lethal.
We had almost 700 people from about 36 different countries. They killed 10 of our colleagues. 6 of those who were killed were most likely executed.
But despite the risks, the flotillas sail anyway.
What if I don't come back? Try very hard to come back.
I don't want my kids to grow up without a mom, but I also don't think that I cannot do this.
In 2025, the movement became the largest yet. In 2026, they sail again. This is the Flotillas, a series on the movement to break the siege on Gaza. First up, the history of that movement, and one woman who's been there from the very beginning.
We call on our governments to stop Israel, but if they don't, we will.
How did a few boats become a movement to break a siege? The answer starts with Huwaida Arraf. She grew up in Michigan, around 10,000 kilometers from her parents' hometowns near Bethlehem and Akka. Her fight to end Israel's occupation has taken her around the world. She says she's been arrested more times than she can count. Now she lives back in the state where she grew up. And that's where I met her.
Let's do it. You were born in Detroit, but you grew up visiting Israel and Palestine a lot when you were younger. What were those trips like?
When we were younger, my father was the sole breadwinner. We were 5 kids, and my father worked on the assembly line and General Motors. So we didn't have a lot, but that, we had enough. And so when they had enough savings to take us back, they believed that it was very important that we keep that connection with our homeland. I remember one of the years that we went back, and we wanted to go visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. And I'd wanted my aunt and my cousin to come with us, and they were saying that they couldn't come with us. And I was like, what? Why? Israel did not let them travel from Bethlehem, Beit Zahor to Jerusalem because, of course, they were Palestinian. She said if it wasn't for the United States, Israel wouldn't be able to do this. And I just remember really feeling shocked, like, not the United States. Not the United States. It's all about kind of the freedom and democracy, doing this to my family. That was probably one of my first awakenings.
Huwaida wanted to share that awakening. In college, she discovered that many of her peers knew very little about the injustices Palestinians face at the hands of Israel. After college, she moved to Jerusalem to work for an American organization. By August 2001, during the Second Intifada, she had co-founded her own.
The International Solidarity Movement is really a global movement of international activists that we called on to join Palestinian popular struggle because Palestinians resisting alone Israel's occupation were being injured, killed, imprisoned, all with impunity.
Well, we are witness to the daily humiliations that Palestinians suffer. We are calling out to our community, to our respective governments to recognize this and to take action against it.
Having internationals together with Palestinians, we thought could lessen the lethal violence being used against Palestinian protesters We wanted to change the way the mainstream media was reporting, because it's always this Palestinians versus Israelis, or Muslims and Christians versus Jews, and never an accurate portrayal of this is like freedom versus occupation. In my early days with the international solidarity movement, my parents would be very worried. I mean, on the news, you were hearing just Israel forces are shooting at demonstrators.
Her parents' concerns were real. Huwaida was putting her body between Israeli soldiers and protesters, captured in this moment by NBC, a Korean broadcaster.
You're shooting at kids.
I remember once I was at this demonstration and it was my mom's birthday. So I just called her to say, hey, happy birthday, Mom. And then inevitably, Israeli soldiers started shooting at demonstration. I'm like, that's all right. Israeli soldiers are just shooting at us, but I'm okay. Don't worry. I think I put my parents through a lot of that, and they realize they've come to just understand or accept that they're not going to be able to change my belief in this and that I need to do this. This thing that Rose made for me.
Is that Bubba?
What is the Star Ledger? Is that
Along the way, Huwaida fell in love. Alongside her was Adam Shapiro. He found his way to Jerusalem from Brooklyn, New York. He became a co-founder in the international solidarity movement.
We met while we were both working over in Palestine. And then in the course of our activism, we sort of developed a romantic interest and developed our relationship after that. I remember we went to meet with Edward Said before he died. And the first thing he wanted to know was, how did we meet? Because he imagined us meeting in the trenches, like sort of in front of a tank or something like that. So I guess our story does kind of trigger that idea in folks. There were definitely incredibly intense moments. I mean, we did actually stand in front of tanks and get shot at, and times where we were assaulted by Israeli soldiers. But it was also, I think, we separated out to a large extent our activism from our personal lives, if that's possible. And that probably even became more true after we started building our family and having children.
There was a lot of local interest in our wedding because they like to project it as, you know, we're uniting across divides because he's from a Jewish family and I'm from a Palestinian family. And when our message to them was it's not religious, it's not cultural, it's not anything like that. We're all humans, and what Israel is doing is inhumane and illegal. Yeah, there was an interesting photo here where I had to come back really quickly and try to find a wedding dress. And so a local photographer went with me to a wedding shop. Look at this. The gowns Huwaida Arraf tried on Saturday emphasized her tiny waist. I had been on a hunger strike in Israeli prison.
That's from when you were younger.
Adam was thinking I wouldn't make it to the wedding and probably stand him up at the altar because Israel was trying to have me sign for my deportation. If they wanted to deport me, and I said, you can't deport me, I'm a citizen. Definitely did not want them to have any way to block me from coming back. And so I refused. And if that meant that I would have to miss our wedding to refuse and be on a hunger strike and reject this, their diktat that I'd have to be deported, then I was going to do that.
Huwaida comes from a Palestinian Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
You come from a Jewish family from New York.
Mm-hmm.
Have those differences played a significant part of your relationship?
For us individually, no. For Huwaida and myself, definitely not. I grew up in a Jewish household in New York City, but it was a non-Zionist household. You know, Israel never featured in anything in my upbringing whatsoever. I think for Huwaida's family, it was a little bit more challenging, and especially for her father. 2 other daughters of his were engaged by the time we started together. And both of those men were from his village. He overcame it and really came to know me as a person. And I think hopefully these days love me as a person.
How long have you guys been married?
It'll be 24 years next year. Yeah.
Look at this. Oh, and Adam said, I don't see ourselves settled in some suburb, but I'm sure our children will be world travelers.
I don't know if we're settled.
Yeah, we're probably not settled, but still. As is my mom telling journalists, I want her to settle down and have kids. I don't want her to go through more danger.
Huwaida was far from settling down, and she continued to put herself on the front lines.
It was actually international solidarity movement activists that founded the whole effort to break Israel's illegal blockade via the sea. So what happened was in 2003, Israel killed 3 internationals in Gaza within the frame of just a couple of months. Instead of any kind of accountability mechanism, they just decided to not let internationals into Gaza. And then come 2006, Israel puts a near total blockade on Gaza, which it just continued to tighten. We were looking for what could we do. And one of our activists from Australia, he said, why don't we try sailing a boat to Gaza? And I remember thinking, we don't have boats, we don't have money to get boats, and we don't know the first thing about boats. So I don't think that that's a really good idea. Luckily, my other colleagues did think it was a good idea and started working to fundraise to try to get boats. By the summer of 2008, activists managed to get 2 fishing boats to be able to sail to Gaza.
We gotta go and do it and break the siege and push it like we've always said.
Here we are, 44 people from 17 different countries, mainly Western countries, or mainly Europe and the United States. We constitute no threat to Israel. Why can't we go to Gaza? If Israel is going to attack our boats, let the world see that it is not about security. It is about punishing the Palestinian people.
If they fire in the air, not at the boats, that they're only trying to scare us.
We covered almost every scenario. We could be violently intercepted. We could be sabotaged. They could sink our boats. We could drown. We prepared for every scenario, even dying, but not actually making it to Gaza.
And prior to the war on Gaza, members of the Free Gaza movement had successfully delivered aid to the territory by sea on several separate occasions, beginning in August 2008. The scale of their achievement was made clear by the joyous reaction that greeted their arrival.
In 40 years that Israel had controlled Gaza, no one had done this. Thousands and thousands of people that had rushed to meet us when it was announced that Israel was not intercepting our boats. And I can't even explain how joyous Palestinians in Gaza were at receiving us, even though we had come from countries that were enabling Israel to annihilate them. And we knew that we had not broken the siege. We overcame the blockade once, and if we were going to break the siege, we would have to leave the same way we came and do it again and again and encourage others to come with us.
After that first flotilla, boats did reach Gaza again, another 4 times. But today, those early arrivals are a memory, and every flotilla since has been intercepted by Israel. By 2025, the movement for Palestine was the biggest it had ever been. But Huwaida was among the few to sail there successfully. It's a memory she passed on at the People's Conference for Palestine.
Please, brothers and sisters, welcome to the stage Huwaida.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Everything that every single one of you is doing is giving people hope. So I know sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes I don't want to get out of bed in the morning and just want to bury my head. I can't believe that this is the world we're living in, but it's up to us to change it. That has been our message with the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, before that with the Free Gaza movement, with the International Solidarity Movement. Our message is that Palestinians don't want your charity, they don't want to live on aid, they need us to change the political reality that has left them in need of aid. And one thing that we promised when we left that summer of 2008 is that we will not stop sailing until the siege is broken, until Palestine is free.
Sharing the stage with Huwaida is Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, a British-Australian emergency doctor. He's seen today's siege of Gaza himself. His family was forced to flee Gaza and the West Bank before he was born.
In October 2023, I put my hand up immediately and volunteered to go into Gaza for medical missions. And I'd seen the images prior to going into Gaza, and I wasn't prepared. I had never seen such carnage in my life. Working on the ground, dealing with the injured women and children and men of Gaza, the illegal blockade in Gaza, which has deprived much of Gaza of food, water and medicine, which made my job as a doctor dealing in this humanitarian situation almost impossible. We've run out of all painkillers. We can't sedate anyone. There are 7 girls getting their legs amputated, no anesthesia. The bombing is still going on. The room is still shaking. I haven't slept. I was trying to break the medical blockade of Gaza, and the flotilla was trying to break the naval blockade of Gaza. And an alliance had formed because the flotilla wanted to bring in medical supplies into Gaza. And here I was campaigning all over the world about bringing in medical supplies. And they reached out to me, and I was more than happy to come. And I've been supporting the flotillas ever since. When somebody says to me, there are people that are going to risk their lives to bring in a suture kit for you and to bring in some antibiotics, how can you not support that? It really irritates me when they call it a selfie yacht, or the propaganda that they have that people are just doing this for social media. Can you not see the genocide that's happening? Do you think an army that's committing genocide cares about the safety of a few people on a wooden boat bringing in baby formula?
Huwaida felt that same call to action. But since her years confronting soldiers, life changed. She had 2 children, and her last flotilla departed more than a decade ago. Huwaida's version of having it all meant becoming a human rights attorney, running for Congress, and organizing flotillas without going herself. But by 2025, she was ready. Her children were old enough for her to go, and to have their own thoughts about it.
Can you introduce yourselves? Tell me your names.
Don't be shy.
My name's Mayar, and I'm 10.5 years old.
And
my name's DR, and I'm 12.
12.
This photo and these photos here are at the kids' school. Every year they had an international week, so we always used it as a time not just to show off our culture, but we would put up displays explaining the map and Israel's effort to erase our identity. And I mean, the school was really great in actually promoting understanding of different cultures and things like that, but not necessarily beyond the cultural understanding.
I wanted to say this poem, but my teacher said no. That made me sad and angry because it didn't really have anything that was bad.
What poem?
If I must die, you must live.
It makes me want to tear up.
It was too political. They said, and I went into a long back and forth with the teachers about the fact that politics is very much a part of our culture when your culture is being erased. And this is a poem that she herself wanted to read, and so telling her no was just kind of contributing to that effort again, or maybe unknowingly and not deliberately, but erasing a part of her identity. Now, I do have a family, and I don't want my kids to grow up without a mom. But I also don't think that I cannot do this. I think that we need to do whatever we can in the ways that we can. And I have just come to be kind of experienced in this nonviolent direct action. And if the mission needs me or I need to be on it, I will.
I think what I'm most impressed with is that I think she personally feels more powerful than any soldier, tank, anything that they can throw at her. There were Palestinians who've been killed, who've gone to jail, paid a very high price. There's people who've served military, but there's nobody who's been arrested and detained as many times as she has. There's nobody who's been beaten as many times as she has. That this kind of determination, this kind of unwillingness to yield demonstrates how powerful is her belief that her position is right and moral and correct.
I'm going to have to disagree with the part specifically about nobody being arrested and beaten or sacrificed as much. Because in Palestine, you do have the activists that have been, in their villages challenging the wall. I mean, they are. They've beaten.
Nobody's been arrested more than you. Nobody.
I mean, no, we lost count. We lost count a long time ago. But the activists and the organizers in Palestine themselves are so incredibly impressive. And what gets me about that is Palestinians have nothing, no government that is responsible for them. No, they're not seen as human. They're not treated as human by the Israeli individual soldiers and police and by the state. For me, it takes kind of less courage to do what they're doing because, I won't be treated as bad as they are.
In July 2025, Huwaida joined the ship Handala, departing from Italy. Before leaving her family, she sat down with her kids.
Our boat is saying, no, you're not allowed to do this, and we're going to go to Gaza. But they can stop us, and they've stopped boats before, and they bombed one of our boats, and last time they...
Did anyone die?
Not when they bombed the boat. Some people got hurt, but some in a boat, in a flotilla I was on in 2010, some people died, yeah. 10 people died. We never know what they're going to do, but we always try to do a lot of work to try to ensure that they won't hit us and they won't kill people. And in the end, they are killing Palestinians, are killing people every day. They're letting Israel kill and starve people, which is wrong and it's illegal. And when our governments fail, when they don't do the right thing, we people have to do. We can't see bad things and not do anything about it. What if you don't come back? What if I don't come back? What? Try very hard to come back.
ديار وميار ماما وصلنا. I know. Wait, خلينا أصوركم مع بعض. Baba too.
I've come to the acceptance that yes, I have to do this, but I always also wonder, am I kind of depriving my kids of the very things that I'm fighting for other kids to have? I don't know the effects or how much trauma this is maybe having on my kids. I think that they're taking it well, and we have these discussions, and I always try to reassure them, but we are living a reality where parents are deprived of the right to be able to provide safety and security to their kids. I think what people need to realize more broadly is if Israel, the United States, Western powers are sending us this message that this can happen in broad daylight, live streamed, and we are not going to be able to stop it, people that are horrified by this, then nobody is safe.
Huwaida left Michigan to join 20 other activists on the Handala to attempt once again to break Israel's siege on Gaza. Dr. Mustafa was there for the send-off, helping the activists as they built a global audience for the flotilla.
The ship is carrying very basic things. It's symbolic, and that's what it is, and that's what people have to remember. This isn't about feeding 1 million children in Gaza that are starving to death. This is about breaking the siege to provide an access route for other ships, for other maritime routes to break the illegal siege of Gaza. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us why you're going on this boat.
Yeah, I'm Chris Smalls. I'm the founder of the Amazon Labor Union, the first union in American history for Amazon workers.
You know that they don't follow by any humanitarian laws.
Right.
You're sailing on an unarmed ship carrying baby formula.
Yeah.
They've killed people before on these ships, right? There's a real danger here. How do you feel about that?
Well, I can't imagine what, Palestinian people are going through every day. For me, as a black man in America, I always had a target on my back since I was born. And to expand this fight and struggle shows international solidarity. And death comes a part of the territory. But I made my peace, and I'm at peace, and I'm in good spirits. I'm not fearing the outcome.
You know that people are going there, potentially knowing that they could be killed on this mission. And they are going there to bring just a handful of supplies. This is not going to be enough to stop the starvation. It's not just symbolic. It is also about consciousness. It's about the fact that human beings with moral clarity refuse to allow what's going on in Gaza to be the new normal, and they are willing to risk their lives, their safety to go in. You're talking about an army that doesn't respect the dignity of life of children. You're talking about an army that has, in front of the eyes of the whole world, tried to starve 1 million children to death. And we're relying on the eyes of the world to pressure Israel to allow that ship in.
But that reality didn't deter the activists. On departure day from Italy, children came to say farewell.
It is almost noon and we have to get out of here by noon. Just having a very emotional goodbye. So many of the locals gathered to say goodbye, but we know that none of this is possible without just countless people all over the world making this happen. We know that our governments and what they are doing do not represent us. And these people you see behind me, they represent the world that we want to live in. They represent the world that I want to pass on. This Handala boat is called for the children of Gaza. We are doing this for all of humanity, but especially the children. And we have so many people bringing their children and coming out to see the boats and bringing donations, especially things for kids. It's going to make one child in Gaza very happy. Thank you. Some of the messages kids are writing, the stuffed animals are leaving. Some kids came by earlier and actually donated their piggy banks. Such a beautiful gesture from kids, although it's terrible to think that kids have to be aware that other kids are suffering this much.
This cannot be the new normal. It cannot be normal to starve 1 million children. This is why the flotilla is gaining such legitimacy around the world, because it is a direct challenge to using humanitarian aid and food and medicine as a weapon of war. The more that that becomes the new normal, the more that the flotillas will become the new normal of activism, and they will become more legitimate, they will become more publicized, and they will become bigger and better than ever.
Do you miss me yet?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. Do you want me to get to Gaza?
Yeah, but I want you to get back home.
Huwaida and crew were intercepted before they could get to Gaza, joining the ranks of other flotillas. But with one difference. It was the last boat to journey solo before one of the largest flotillas to Gaza in history. Next up on the flotillas, aboard the Global Samud,